my channel. Are you ready? This one's interesting. Right, so this one I'm going to talk about PsyOPS. I'm going to talk about how this can sort of like interbreed, where it can come from in the Kabbalah, what type of, give you an example of a mythological underpinning to understand the PsyOP, and go from there. You ready? Right, so the PsyOPS, they're obviously everywhere. Like some depict of a fourth dimensional concept as a visual, or it can be any sensory perception. Okay, this is a PsyOP. This is also an aspect of is it hallucination? Can be seen as that, or it can be hypnosis. Okay, so you can do it under an illusion, but it's a form of hypnosis, right? So this is how you can sort of understand what a PsyOP is, right? So hypnosis, let's inject, like I said, fear. You know, I think I said it in the last one, right? Go to that one, right? But that's the PsyOP Nation one, right? So anyway, we did that, right? But now we're going to do this. So what spheres can, well, all of them, right? All of them can erupt an aspect of maybe an inverted state or a PsyOP to push us into where? Our fields. So you might see something on the news, it's going to push straight into your fields. It might not necessarily be a PsyOP, it's just like a fear. It's a news, right? For example, that's normal, right? It's normal. But it's not at the same time, right? It's a PsyOP to control you into thinking to be fearful or to be distant or to, whatever, right? So it's a form of information gathering as well. But if we want to be really realistic, how does this affect us as our minds developing, or our minds are just, going on about our normal days? What we inject into our minds, what we watch has an effect on our mental capacity, our mental understanding. And this is kind of like where we can be an observer, a sixth dimensional concept, so we can step away, so we don't get sucked into it, that feel. What we can like step away and try and comprehend it without the PsyOP, without the download, if you like. It's a download, isn't it? Everything's a download. You download all the time, right? So this is a connotation to it. Where is it on the Kabbalah? So I would probably say that it's everywhere. Okay, you can have a PsyOP experience anywhere in everyday life. Okay, in anywhere, wherever you come from, whatever culture, okay, whatever race, okay, whatever religion, right? Gender as well. That can be bloody. That's been done with this past couple of years, couple of generations now, I think, pushing the gender fluidism, right? And then obviously there's all stuff, right? So there's all a psyopic connotation to it, okay? So this can happen if, it's a program, so it can be in a 3D concept, or it could be in a 4, but it's actually to invert you in a fourth dimensional way. This is a fourth dimensional way because it's a mind, okay? So you can't see it, but you're understanding it from that perspective. So this is a 4D concept. So this is kind of like how a PsyOP can take place from a fourth dimensional concept. And it's as simple as that, right? It's low, okay? You're down, right? When you're doing stuff like this, when it's an inversion, it's going to be a negative. So it's going to not even going to be it's going to be a 4D, but it's going to be a negative side to a 4D concept, right? And it hits the mercy. And the reason why I say it can be inverted, because it can be inverted, right? Anything can be inverted, okay? Right? So if they want something to go a certain way, they're going to try and push that narrative to a certain way, because it's a PsyOP, right? It's a psychological operation to stop or to make it go their way, okay? So this is how you got to see this stuff. And this is how it is, right? So let's get into one of a PsyOP sort of mythological underpinning that can bring to you, that I can probably understand, but I'm going to stand away as a sixth dimensional being and understand this and bring it to you. Right, so the Holy Grail, right, which is my connotation to understanding who I am, okay? So a Holy Grail is like a connotation. Well, let's get into the Arthurian legends and what they did with the Holy Grail, okay? So the Arthurian legends is actually a love. It's the Venus energy, supposedly. Right? That shack. This is a Mason. It's Freemason, right? This is a Freemason. Woo! We love Freemasons, the good ones, right? So we've got this one here, all right? And this is a Venus energy. So this is like a really loving place to be, right? Supposedly. And what did he? So there's a mythology about what Kingfisher did to the Holy Grail, okay? And he trapped her. I think he hid her in a castle, or he hid her somewhere, right? And he locked her away, right, basically. And he left there for a long time, right? And it was because he wanted her, no one else, right? So this is the Kingfisher. I think he was meant to be in custody of it, right? So he had custody of the Kingfisher. I mean, the Kingfisher had custody of the Grail, right? So this is an Arthurian legend, right? And this is kind of like a PsyOP understanding, because in a mythological underpinning, the Holy Grail was held captive by the Kingfisher, which is a mythology concept, right? And but why? Okay, because he wanted to do whatever he wanted to do with her, right? So he obviously like restricted her human rights. He stopped her from doing what she wanted to do truly in her life, to try and destroy her destiny, right? And the reality is that if people want to do that to us, and they have some sort of higher moral, not moral high ground, because they bloody don't, but if they have like some sort of financial, or there's been a deal been made or something like that, anything could happen. And this is kind of like where financial isn't securing humanity, and there's a fault with our financial system and humanity because it's not securing it. I agree with capitalism, so quickly I'm just going to get onto this, is that I'm not communist, but I agree with capitalism. And the reason why is not because you step on people to get to the top. No. It's because you have something to share to the masses that's going to provide nourishment to them, and then in return it goes back and it circulates, okay? So we need a circulation that takes place for the people, not just for like stepping on people to get to the top, okay? Because that's not really going to do anything, is it? Or what's it going to do? Make you rich and that's it. All right. Is that it? How do I stop the truth from being told? Capitalism isn't a bad thing. It's just how it's been, how business has been regulated through that capitalism that can make it sort of like people want to go against it completely, when it's not actually something that you should go against, because capitalism is like reaching. It's almost like we all have a potential to reach, okay? So this is like we all have a potential to rise. This is capitalism, okay? We all have potential to rise, okay? And I like this about capitalism because, it's not you're not stuck in a communist society, basically, where like you all get nothing, and that's not fair either, right? It's not fair. That's worse, right? So that's how I see this. This is how I would underpin it. And obviously capitalism comes a public interest. So I think if financial and capitalism can come together, I'm going off now, but if it can come together and bring an actual understanding of what needs to take place for the people, so it takes a full spin instead of just breaking lines, breaking travels. No one's understanding what needs to take place, but it is. There needs to be a financial beneficiary that works for the people, and it has to be promoted in our human rights worldwide. So this will be like a universal understanding, but not just financial, but AI as well. Anyway, let's get back into this. PsyOPS. So the PsyOP, what I'm talking about, is almost like he wanted all her, so the Kingfisher, he wanted all her gifts, he wanted all her power, and he tried to steal it, I think she was a fat and a youth and stuff like this, right? So they wanted to steal her energy, and it says in there that he had her, right? So old Billy Joe Blogs is probably old now. So what's going on? This is a PsyOP anyway. This is a spiritual, significant understanding to see how to close somebody off. Like, so say like if you were held away in a castle all by yourself, like the Holy Grail was, like what can she do? Nothing. Right? So she's stuck. Right? So this is kind of like where they want you to. This is kind of like how they wanted a Holy Grail to feel, to think. They're stuck. They're lost. They're not going to find any help. No one cares about them. You know, stuff like this. And it's kind of like a negative. It's a negative form of abuse, right? It's psychological, right? But this is a PsyOPic mythology that I'm going to push in because, yeah. So overall, to say that these things can take place, but you know, it's not in mythology. It was he held her. He was in. She had his. He had her custody. He was in his custody. So in this, it's kind of like an expression of understanding how people can take us in a mind control fourth dimensional understanding. But this is also a spiritual connection as well, spiritual connotation. Okay, so you know they might claim to be serious and really good, but they might just be serious and Jehovah's Witnesses. I didn't want to say it, but I'm saying it. It's a Jehovah's Witness concept, or it might be a travel to you know, I think it's Jehovah's Witness. I think it's like Scientology, that kind of stuff, right? But it can be a negative